Joining us for the news review this morning, we have our guests seated. Professor Isaac Boadi. He is Dean of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Faculty of Accounting and Finance. And also from that institution, Ishaq Ibrahim. He's a senior lecturer at the law school in that same institution. Ishaq, Prof. Boadi, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It appears nowadays you do the Echebia Fasai nowadays. So I'm going to, you know me already. I'm going to do a little.
What you can do.
But I hear the hats, right? When you put them on, or depending on how you wear them, if you tilt to the right, if you tilt forward, if you tilt to the side, or you pull it up, or you turn backwards, they all have meanings. Do you know the meaning of the one you've done this morning?
In fact,
Hey, Benjamin,
I was not used to the hats, until I traveled to the north. Some months ago.
Okay.
I realized that we should project our culture.
True.
So when we go there, you have some of these.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't know what you said until a friend of mine, during the program that we organized last week, said, "Prof, do you know the meaning of this, the position of your hat?" I said, "No." He said, "When you wear it this way, it means you're ready for war."
You've learned well.
Yes. So for me, I'm in for peace. So.
You're in for peace. I mean,
they have different meanings.
Yes.
It depends on how you wear it. But for me, coming from the south, they should forgive me.
No idea. And sometimes,
yes. I think they are very particular about it. I had the opportunity.
Indeed.
I mean, I'm a northerner from the Wale Wale area, and I also went to secondary school. So as part of cultural dance in secondary school, you'll be taught of all these things, especially when the hat is straight up.
Exactly.
So you can see the president, when he's skiing in the north, or when they skin a chief in the north, the hat is straight.
Or the chiefs,
meaning
especially
you are
the paramount.
only, that means you are the only one in town. You are the chief.
Yes.
So you cannot do that at the chief palace. So you have to be very, very careful.
Exactly.
They say that. But when you turn
else it would be as though you were challenging his authority.
Yes, yes.
And that could have dire consequences.
Yes, yes.
So they should forgive me.
They should forgive you.
I'm all easy for
yes. But I think usually they don't descend on you. Maybe if they look at you, know that you don't know.
Okay.
And usually somebody who is a regular attendant at the chief palace, maybe if you do that, then they know you are in for trouble today.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you are just a new person who is coming, somebody will correct you and then tell you the meaning of them.
Where it gets dangerous is where, the traditional voodoo or medicine, Idru.
Okay.
I heard that.
There are some places where if you go and you are even donning some type of batakari, and the hat's positioned a certain way, someone who has, it's said that someone who has those powers would think that you are trying to show off or throw a challenge, and that person will spiritually, try to test you. And all. That's true as well, right?
I heard that, yes. I heard that.
Then they shouldn't try me because...
They shouldn't try you.
I heard that, but I've always been...
You have Jesus, right?
I've always been skeptical about that. If your faith is strong, I think you'll be fine. Yeah. But I heard that as well.
Right.
But I think we should find a way and project promote our culture.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just how many weeks ago when I wore my own green batakari with its matching hat. I mean, we have... And so sometimes we jettison our own. Yeah. It's good to see all of us in something traditional.
Thank you.
This morning. But let's quickly get into our thoughts. I'll start with you, Prof. What do you have? Maybe about a minute and a half. What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Oh, yesterday we rested, not for any other reason, but because it was commemoration day. And I must say, yesterday commemoration reminds us that we know we honor the contributions of our workers. Whilst we honor the contribution of our workers, we must also confront the systemic challenges that we have in terms of unemployment, inadequate social protections as well, and then exploitative labor practices that's also plaguing our country, putting our country in a different spotlight. We should be able to address it. And I was happy when the president took to the stage and he allayed the fears of our workers that some entities, some state enterprise will not be privatized. I was happy because over the period, we've been having this at the back of our mind that some of the institutions are going to be privatized. But he then went ahead And I don't know what happened, that he also said it would rather be PPA. And I'm sure most labor fronts have been divided on these statements. We have to be careful sometimes where we make sometimes pronouncement, because I felt that it was just at that point where workers are having a day for us to celebrate their achievements. But that thing was made. So this morning, I had to listen to some of the radio discussions, and it's all about privatization or PPA and all that. For me, I don't have a problem when some institutions are to be privatized, or the state will have some collaboration, especially those that are not functioning well. And the president said it's all about inefficiencies. Not this government only, but several governments. I've been wondering what kind of process they can put in place to help some of the sectors to be efficient and to generate more profits. That would be my worry. But then when we get another platform, we can have some discussions. On that day, I'm sure our president should have taken the opportunity to have highlighted the 24-hour economy. Which other one again? Jumara. All these initiatives would have been, I don't know whether I didn't listen to the speech, but maybe he mentioned those things. It could have been a very good platform for him to have discussed some of these issues that are yet to be implemented.
Okay, on ECG, I think, at least I also remember that the sector minister spoke about, I think, Ghana Water Company Limited owing them about 1 billion Ghana cedis or so, and that they are going to turn their lights off, something of the sort. But in respect of what you said, if I recall correctly, because yesterday we did it here, there are going to be concessionaires to handle different aspects of the chain, so that if you are collecting money, yours is to collect money. If you have used X megawatts or gigawatts, the institution to measure that will do that. And when it comes to you, you are just collecting revenue, because it appears now ECG is doing all of that together, and things don't seem to be streamlined properly. Then he also mentioned that they are going to get professionals. I've forgotten the exact terminology, but it's not going to be, oh, we sit down and then, oh, let's choose this entity. There will be no family and friends involved. Has nothing to do with the best entity. They will have a selective process, and you'll have a professionals leading that, so that it has nothing to do with maybe the people in the sector or even the government. They select these people based on how the tendering process goes, and then the selections. My only hope is that they stick to this, what they are saying. And I think maybe that could inure to all our benefit. For you, Ishak, what thoughts would you share with us this morning?
Yes, there's a lot of things going on in my mind. And I think one of the most important one is the one my senior have already picked. So I would like to choose another one. And mine is, this one has to do with the impasse or the allegations and counter allegations between the Attorney General and then A+.
Right.
I think in the beginning, when the Attorney General made mention about those allegations around the National Service, A+ made some counter allegations. In the beginning, people were prepared to brush it aside. After a month, the Attorney General responded to those allegations. And then the next day, A+ fired back. And then last night, the Attorney General said he was focused on his job. And therefore, he was not going to, he believed he could have sued for defamation. But because he's going to focus his job, he would do nothing about it. I think we have it is very troubling. Why am I saying that? If you look at defamation, when right-thinking members of society are beginning to think that those allegations is correct, then defamation is made out. Leaving it because you want to focus on your job, I believe as a chief prosecutor for the government will not be very good for us. Because right-thinking members of society are beginning to believe that the A+ is probably right. Because last night, I met some group who supported the Attorney General vigorously. They were beginning to believe that the A+ probably have a point. Otherwise, the Attorney General would have taken him on.
But has a point on what? I want you to specify.
They are believing A+ that A+ is correct, that the Attorney General is a thief, as A+ has put it across. So I think as a chief prosecutor in court, if you do not address this thing properly, and you are prosecuting people you think have done something wrong, and such a person is to challenge you in open court that, listen, if you accuse me of thief, I'm not the only thief. You are a thief as well. Because somebody has made those allegations, you don't challenge them. So I believe it is in order for the Attorney General to go to court, at least on defamation, to clear his name. If you leave it to linger on, I think we are having problem. The administration of justice can be undermined because of these particular allegations. Because instead of A+ backing off, he's actually firing back. And right-thinking members, as you said, defamation is made when the right-thinking members of society believe what has been claimed to be true. So I think if Attorney General is actually correct that defamation, is possibly he could pursue the defamation, but because he wants to focus his job, that's why he's not doing it. I think it's not right for him to say that, because you're not going to spend all your time in pursuing that civil case. Other people could even, other lawyers could actually handle it for you. So you are not the one going to just prosecute it. Or you could excuse yourself and let your deputies take on prosecuting for the meantime for you to clear your name. Because elsewhere, if it was outside Ghana, this allegation would have been serious. But I'm not sure why we are not really treating it seriously. Because if the chief prosecutor is to be described as a thief, and that person is very forceful saying, I have evidence, it is not enough to say, bring your evidence if you think you have enough evidence. If it was me, I would test it in court to get my name cleared.
All right. Have you ever been defamed? Now, I'm going to cross-examine you a bit.
Okay.
You're a lawyer. You go to court from time to time.
Yes. Defamation is my area of interest, but I teach tort law. Not really, no.
So you've never had...
People have said hateful things, but as you know, some of the defenses is that it's for the heat of the moment.
All right.
So if it is the heat of the moment, somebody says something, I know for sure that if I take him to court, I'm not going to win.
All right. I prefer straightforward answers.
Okay.
You suggested that
yes,
you're beginning to think that...
Right-thinking members of society,
yes, think that the Attorney General is a thief. That was the word you used, right?
I mean, that is a test. I was just laying the legal aspect.
Okay,
I've
so
met people who used to defend him.
Like I said, I prefer straightforward answers.
Yes.
Do you believe the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, is a thief?
His response yesterday gave me consent to believe that A+ is correct.
What aspect of his response?
His response is that I consider defamation, but I don't want to do it because I want to focus on my job. For me, if it is myself, I will pursue defamation.
Fantastic point you just made. If it were you, you'd pursue defamation.
Yes.
Pursuing defamation charges or damages, is it obligatory or is it an optional move?
It is an optional, but by virtue of the position...
I want straight answers.
By virtue of the position he occupies,
right,
I think it's much more obligatory.
Do you realize that for a lot of these public servants, there are many instances where, even in the past administration, where people would be defamed? We saw the one recently in respect of Intim Fojo, where he got some damages for some claims.
700,000.
But there are other, things that have been said about him and about others. Is it everyone they pursued just because...
No, it depends. As I said, it's subjective. It depends on the nature of the position you're occupying. This is the person who will be prosecuting people who will be thieves.
Right.
And somebody say you're a thief. So in open court, if somebody was to say that, why are you persecuting me? After all, we are all thieves. You will muddy the waters.
Right.
So by virtue of the position that he's occupying, is where I said there is a need for him to clear the air by going to court. Not just pursuing the monetary aspect. If he doesn't need money.
I'm not even...
One reason why we could go to court is vindication.
Right.
So you need to vindicate yourself.
All right. And we saw that in the case of the Asin, I don't know whether it's Asin South Member of Parliament, James Jachikwesin.
Yes.
Even when there were overtures for him for the AG to withdraw the case, he said he wanted to go forth and prove his.
Yes.
So I get that point. What is the bone of contention? As far as I've read, it has to do with campaign funding, right?
Yes.
Right?
But the current one is, okay.
Which one are you referencing?
There is one that I've read from what A+ is saying that this money is not related to even campaign. Because if it was after the election, was where he was soliciting for this money to bribe members of the appointment committee to approve him. So it was actually after the campaign. So Attorney General was responding to...
He himself, the AG.
Yes.
Okay. I thought that matter had been put to bed with the Bernard Ahiafo committee and the work that was done after that. I thought, if you followed the proceedings,
yes,
I thought that matter had been put to bed.
No, yesterday the A+ firing back with the Attorney General.
So this was what he. No, but I mean,
it doesn't seem to
for you,
been,
if you followed I'm sure you followed, Prof, when those allegations were purportedly made.
I've not followed that stuff.
Yes.
Oh, when the ministers were being vetted in Parliament. Okay. If you followed, you remember when that issue came up and Bernard Ahiafo had to bring it up, and there was even a committee, I think, that was set up. Okay. I don't know whether it was on the back of that, but then they dealt with it and then invited, I don't know whether that is on the back of what they invited Oliver Barker-Vormawor. I'm not sure whether it was that specific one. But
no, from what A+ said. I knew of that one. I remember when he appeared before the committee. Oliver appeared before the committee. Was that the one you were talking about?
Yes, I think.
No, these seem to be fresh allegations. A+ said, not just this allegation, he said he has much more evidence.
My problem with people who keep doing this much more,
right? Yes.
Just like I had with Reverend Tim Fojo.
Yes.
When he said, you remember, he said, even after the matter blew up and there's even more, I'm still waiting for the more.
Yes.
Do you get it? So I think A+, but in any case, A+ is a legislator now.
Yes. And that is what makes it serious.
He's a legislator now.
Yes.
He's made certain claims in the past about having certain information about certain very serious things.
Yes.
If that be the case,
yes,
why not just put the evidence before the police and the courts so that we can settle some of these matters? We also have to look at the other side. Yes, the Attorney General may decide to take him on or not take him on, bearing in mind as well that the majority, while they have a vast majority, they are hoping to work with the independent group of which A+,
they don't need him,
is a member.
No, in this particular parliament, they don't need
I
him.
premised my point on something.
Okay.
I said, though they have a vast majority.
Yes.
They are trying to work. If you listen to
Mahama, I understood you, yes.
The majority leader.
Yes.
He said that they wanted to be all involving, including even with the minority.
Yes.
I don't know what the thinking is. That's up to him to decide. But I think if A+ does have all the information that he's speaking of, not just on this matter, he should do the country a great service and put it out. Because I think the talk is becoming...
I agree with you on that.
I also, on this issue of campaign financing, there have been reports talking about how much an MP, very recent ones, spends to become an MP in Ghana, and how much a president is expected to spend. If you juxtapose it with Nigeria and their population, and how much we are spending, it is outrageous, makes no sense.
That is true.
We have to look at political party financing, candidate financing, because indeed influence can come in there, whether from terrorists, money launderers, all kinds of people who will later target a government. And finally, how about Kwame A+ himself and his campaign financing? Who's checking that?
He himself?
Well, it's a good point.
Well, I mean, if you bring it up, we might as well look at you as well.
Or everybody.
How do you fund your campaign? Interesting times in Ghana. So let's, I mean, these are all issues to contemplate. But I mean, when I think through these things, I mean, if there are so many layers, so many angles to look at. And I think it's good Kwame A+ is bringing these things up. We should hold him to the same standards, the same accountability.
I agree with you.
When it comes to...
As the Attorney General said, 278 MPs will be thieves.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, at UPSA, you know, we do a lot of programs and all that. We had something on political financing. And I can share with you some of the things that people talked about on that day.
Right.
Interesting. You know, it starts from our students. Politics.
Yes. No, but right now, the student politics is not student politics. It is NDC MPP politics.
Yeah.
Very true.
It is Tain and Tescon. That's the way it is.
Organizing that program, you'll be shocked the amount of money they invest into this.
Yes.
And you don't know where the funds are coming from.
So you have the candidates, right?
Yeah.
There's an NPP person in there who will be supported by XYZ in the NPP. There's an NDC person in there who will be supported by XYZ. And maybe there may be the others who really can't do the job, but they will not get the votes.
Yeah.
It is those people who have because they have the financial muscle. They have the political muscle because people will come and influence. I mean, we've seen some of these people, even some sort of mock rallies on campus, and it is NDC elements, MPP elements. We've seen that.
Yes.
We should check and have a law passed on some of these things.
Yes. I think we already have laws around those, but we don't have
implementation.
Yes.
Of those laws.
Activation is just the problem. I mean, I'm happy to tell you, I mean, I've run for primaries before, parliamentary primaries before. It's not easy.
Yeah.
The unreasonable demands made on you, it's just...
No, if you don't have the money, forget it. You will not get it.
It's about the enforcement of those laws.
Yes. It's like harvesting time. Give us now, and then later we'll leave it alone.
And we are seeing even some of that with the president's appointees. I mean, like we saw in the past, do you remember where a DCE or is it MCE nominee had said that you people, you didn't vote for me, so give me back my money? Do you remember? The one, the OSP.
Yes.
How many years ago was it?
That's
about
right.
2 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And now some of the nominees are being turned down. The Greater Accra regional minister had to say that, listen, I think some of you are doing this because you think, these people will come back and make more offers to you, more money and all of that. But in the end, it is what we've turned our politics into. But let's make tracks with the papers we have. Okay. You have a stack of 2, but let me go to Prof first. Is it the Ghanaian publisher?
Yes, the Ghanaian publisher.
Okay, so let's do this quickly, gentlemen. We have about 35 minutes. I want us to maximize that. So give us the headlines, all of them very quickly. Pick 1 or 2 major stories. Okay. Let's cut into them incisively.
Yeah, I think I have the Ghanaian publisher and the story here, TUC to government, ensure living wages reinstate unfairly dismissed workers. And I have one here, UPSA tax dialogue, expert praise SML Ghana's Rex reward model. And then I have one here, a story on page 2, our hands are clean in year contracts. Zoom Lion, that's the CEO of Zoom Lion. And I have that of current processes for removing CJA unfair, so far Akufo tells us. In fact, if you come to the TUC to government on the living wages, Workers' Day is not just celebration of labor, it's a call for fair wages, dignified working conditions. In fact, the days of rhetoric is over. We demand tangible policies that will uplift every worker, from the informal trader to the former employee. And that's right, because a nation that forgets, neglects its workers, neglect the future. And it's important that we emphasize on this issue. Very important. We have our hands are clean in year contracts. I don't know. Sometimes when we have CEOs who are Ghanaians, they often go through some of these challenges. I don't know, but anytime you have an issue in a country, and those issues are bordering on transparencies and borders on corrupt deals and practices, for me, I will not support. But when we are doing this to our local entrepreneurs, we have to be mindful the extent to which we had a contract between Ye and then Zoom Lion. Zoom Lion, they've been in existence for years. Different political parties, different administrations. They've existed during the NDC 1, NDC 2 or so, MPP 1, MPP 2, and so they are here. Some of this contract, I don't know when it became an issue. We should be careful. I hear it's about transparency, alleged overpricing, and then mismanagement of funds. I don't know, but I have no idea what is happening to this company. It's been in the media for some time. We hope that they operate beyond our borders. And we have to be careful the way we pronounce judgment and we say things about this company. They have other contracts beyond our borders, and people also be listening to what is happening here. If there are issues, we can deal with those issues internally. They have employed a lot of individual members in our country, and we have to be careful how we deal with this. The last story that I'll talk about is the UPSA tax dialogue. We had this program, in fact, it was organized by my faculty. It was well attended. We had experts from various fields, the GRA, we had the auditing firms, we had a lot of individuals who attended. It was well attended. We were talking about mainly revenue tax leakages. And Bernard, you agree with me that in Ghana, Benjamin, is about our tax to GDP ratio very small.
Right.
It's almost about, I think, 19 or 18%. What it means is that whatever we produce, 100%, the government gets about 19% or so. In Africa, I think we rank about 9th or so in Africa. It's very small. And the country is more informal kind of nature. We expect leakages, but not to this quantity that we are talking about. You know, in Ghana, we lose. I did a paper in Ghana. We did a survey, close to about 9 billion or so in terms of leakages, and that is worrying. Through smuggling, through corruption, and through tax evasion, and it's a big problem. So we had this dialogue, and we came out with the best model that we think can fix the bill and help reduce a lot of leakages. And we want to commend some of these institutions. For instance, we have been told of SML play a major role trying to reduce leakages in our revenue stream. Ghana, we have a lot of issues when it comes to revenue, and therefore, when we see an avenue, we should be able to identify, block those avenues. If other entrepreneurs will partner with the government to support GRA, that's, commendable. And that's what we encourage on that day, that we have seen a model, a risk-reward model, that also will help. We have seen that we've had a lot of issues on the contract of this entity. I'm sure we can have a better way of dealing with it. It's the same thing happening to Zoom Lion. I don't know what is happening to our country, that it is a purely indigenous enterprise. We are hard on our own sometimes. So these are a few things that I can say on the stories that I have here.
Any reflections on these stories?
What you had just read so far. I think the Zoom Lion story is very, very concerning. Especially, it's like we are leaving our vulnerables behind. Even though I know workers in general in Ghana are largely underpaid. But the most vulnerable ones, if you look at most countries, and if also somebody who is interested in human rights, 1966, we signed the International Covenant for Economic and Social Rights, and that urged countries to cushion the poor. If you look at the Western world, they are largely doing it. But to think of knowing workers who receive 120 cedis a month, 150, and then Zoom Lion is just one example that we are able to see because some people are interested in this story. They keep publishing it. I saw Manessa Azuri more or less actively on it. And I was surprised to know that they were used to earn 150, which was increased to 250. And I understood now the Zoom Lion is advocating for about 1,300 so that these workers will be paid 400. Which I think is not just right. I mean, the main role Zoom Lion is playing is a coordinating role. So the person who will be coordinating, you're not just taking from one person. You're coordinating for all these workers. And you can see, is it your overheads or what is really the issue that you have to take more than 50%?
That is one of the issues, and I'm not in any way trying to defend this contract or Zoom Lion. I am not interested. My only interest is that there should be transparency. And I've actually lampooned Zoom Lion a number of times because I feel it makes no sense to be paying the people in the trenches doing the work, sweeping the roads, waking up at that time. You see people as old as your mother on the street at dawn, sweeping, and how much do they earn at the end of the month? And even what is our minimum wage? You get it? So I'm not trying to defend them, but I think I've heard conversations around, it's not just, getting the people, but it's also about the different logistics, like you said, overheads. What exactly they are, I don't know. But
but if the overheads means that you have to take almost 70 or 80% of the earnings, it means you're not the right company to award the contract to. But get somebody who will have...
Do they subcontract? Do they give some areas to other people to work, to other organizations?
I think they engage the
workers. Not that I don't know.
They engage the workers direct.
Is it direct?
Yes. So if you're asking for 1,300 cedis from the government, and you are going to give 400, see the gap. I mean, I have been an agency worker before. I've had an agency company before. You cannot take more than 15%. If you see yourself taking more than 15% of the sum of money given to you, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
But my issue is that
I mean, workers are not protected.
Why do they have to even bring this one to the public, domain for discussions?
No, I think somebody got it.
Oh, a lot of commentary has, and he also mentions rightly Manasseh Azuri, who over the last how many years has been talking about some of these contracts. I think for the optics, even if not for the optics, I think these matters ought to be looked at. I saw one post of his where he was trying to alert Malik Basin.
Malik, yes. I saw it as well.
Look into some of these before continuing with the contracts. And I think I saw another post or a story where Malik suggested something else, that they were going to ensure that even if they got the contract was extended, people would be paid more, which may also explain now, because I don't have the full facts.
Let me say something.
Which may also explain the sums of money being mentioned, but it still doesn't. I remember it still doesn't make sense.
Yesterday, I was actually chatting with somebody, and I said, looking at the minimum wage, it will actually be unlawful, because it's the minimum wage is almost 20 cedis a day. Now, people should be taking minimum of 600. So I was told it was not a salary or wages. It was actually an allowance. That's why they could go under the minimum wage.
Right.
But the contract, it happened between two entities, the government also and any entrepreneur. So why can't you go back to the drawing board to discuss this issue again than to bring it?
And there's a time to go back to the drawing board, because the contract has ended.
Because some people say, oh, but the people who do the work accepted. They accepted to take those sums of money. But that is why any state, one of the foremost responsibilities is to protect the poorest of the poor, the most vulnerable. So, you see, all of these are, it's pretty worrying.
No,
because if some of the claims are true, then it means we are taking advantage, all of us. Because these people work on behalf of all of us, Ghanaians. We are taking advantage of the poorest of the poor. Again, I'm not lampooning any specific entity. I'm just saying that, for me, from where I sit, we must do more work on these things, because there's a whole lot that is like gray areas for me.
But my challenge has been when it has to do with our own people, enterprises. It's been like this. Other foreign institutions and companies, we hardly will talk about some of this in public. Why do you do this also our local entrepreneurs? It get to a point that people will not want to set up business anymore. So we should look at that aspect very well.
Okay, let's get into, would you like to quickly look at your papers?
The Daily Analyst, their slogan is quite interesting, without fear or favor. So the first one, ECG is not for sale. Mahama assures Ghanaians. Organised Labour cautions Mahama over CJ's removal. And then GJA honors promoters of press freedom today. The News Center. Zoom Lion renews call on YEA for high pay for sanitation beneficiaries. Minority backs demo against CJ removal. Workers roar at May Day over living wage. CJ's removal. Worker dismissal. Pension. Western Galamsey and Mahama response. So that's the headlines. So in terms of choosing a story, I think the CJ remover, I think they've already done overkilling on this area, but it's still very important because of the comment passed by Organised Labour and that of the lawyers as well. I think the lawyers have issued a statement on this. And I think the removal of the CJ should actually concern every Ghanaian. This area is really important for a number of reasons. The Chinese have a proverb that only fools learn from their mistakes. For others have made mistakes for you to learn from. So why am I saying this? If you see these constitutional principles of separation of powers is well founded in law, as well as political philosophy. Montesquieu made that point that these three branches, the executive, the judiciary, and then the legislature should be separated, such that nobody should have power more than the other side, so that they can have check and balances. Here is the case. We have a very flawed constitution, That's more or less giving the power to president to suspend a co-equal branch, as well as more or less involved in removing him. We can see that this is a flawed constitution. And as I said, only fools learn from their mistakes. Other people have made a mistake. I'm making reference to the Congo. The Congo, if you read what necessitated this crisis, it was a constitutional issue between the president and then the prime minister. The president giving the prime minister the power to fire the president, with the president having the power to fire the prime minister. And this led to Lumumba problem with that of the president. So this area, if we are not able to manage it, I believe our Fourth Republic will be in danger. Why am I saying so? Just with this experience and the way it's going, I believe that if we are not able to resolve this issue and manage to remove the chief executives, it is more or less telling every member of the judiciary is that your job is not skilled. And the executive can remove you at any time. In that instance, we are going to have a very, very weak judiciary. The judiciary, and the Constitution said the independence of the judiciary is assured. How can you have independence when your job is not skilled? The president can have the power to remove you. And if they are able to remove the CJ, it means any other person can be removed.
Right.
So I believe that even though Article 146 made provision that the president may be able to suspend the CJ, and then the president will be involved in removing the CJ. But to have to have the spirit of the Constitution in mind, let's remember that the Constitution requires separation of powers as well. And as Organized Labour said, let's do it slowly, and let's be aware of the constitutional dangers. Right. And I think that is the point I want to make.
All right, so let me follow up. I love the legal matters because there we get to talk. You're very well aware of Baron de Montesquieu's, theories and separation of powers and everything in between. Interestingly, Ghana is one of those systems where, in fact, in most jurisdictions, you will not have a pure separation of powers. In fact, it's well nigh impossible. And in Ghana, you have a separation that is not a real separation, partly because we have parliamentarians who are also members of the executive.
Yes.
The system we have created, a sort of hybrid. So they are legislators. Our constitution also gives room for appointments to be made from the same legislature, at least a certain quota. So we end up with a lot of members of the executive who are also members of the legislature.
That's true.
As for the concerns about them, I feel we should delineate that. If you're in the legislature, you're in the legislature. If you are a member of the executive, you're a member of the executive.
Very true.
If you're in the judiciary, you're in the judiciary.
Yes.
But as one to me will say, whom am I? But we are here.
Yes.
But then again, you make some points. So my point is this. The independence of these institutions, nowhere is it total. It is never total. There are always checks and balances. There's separation of powers and there's checks and balances of these co-equal institutions or organizations or arms of government. Even the president himself is subject to removal under certain circumstances. And mind you, when I talk like this, I'm not saying the Chief Justice deserves to be removed or doesn't deserve to be removed. I'm just basing my points on what you have said. So too the Speaker of Parliament. Right? But in this instance, let's look at it clearly. Because I've listened to the rhetoric on it, and I'll feed also into the talk about the latest justices who have been nominated. Right? And the whole talk about, they are packing the courts. As for, let me just say it spot on. Anyone from the current opposition who says anybody is packing the courts, I am saying, is being a hypocrite. Because, Ishak, you are aware. What did we not see under the former president?
I mean, the CJ...
From every level of the courts. Circuit to all the levels of the courts. I mean, anyone could sit and make a claim that, but if you want to make this analogy, then let's look at what you did over the last how many years? And then the point also has to be made that if you look at it critically, in law, seniority is crucial, just as in the army.
In the army,
The likes of Sir Dennis Ajay. I mean, someone could say he's one of our Lord Dennings in Ghana. His scholarly works, his work as a justice of the superior courts and seeing people come, jump him, go to the Supreme Court over time, some of them academics, some of them through the mill. I mean, people would explain to you, some would say, oh yeah, but it is practice. If we want to streamline this, let's streamline it, but let's stop the hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy, yeah.
Let's stop with the hypocrisy, because some of the people who were promoted over their seniors, people who had been there, established, character, check, rulings, check, everything, check. And now it appears, because you speak to some of the legal luminaries, and they also tell you that no, now certain wrongs are being righted. Some people who should have been sent there, unless you disagree with me, a long time ago, and for whatever reason, whether politics or whatever, were not allowed to go there. Exactly. And now they are being promoted. So I think maybe we should take off our political lenses and focus on what? Do we need a cap of the numbers in the Supreme Court? Do we need, and it's also crucial, the former AG. It's interesting that the MPP is also talking about this issue, because the former AG, you remember there was a conversation, and in fact, we have that story on myjoyonline.com, where people were talking about the fact that, there are too many justices of the Supreme Court and all that. And he said, no, for effective running of the judiciary and all of that, we need these numbers. So we must be very careful how we go.
In terms of my thoughts on that.
Because past words will come to haunt us. So if we want to cap the Supreme Court, let us look at it and do it. I have a comment from Reverend Latte, who always speaks on these matters, himself a lawyer. He says, so good morning, say it loud. And okay, so that one has to do with Kwame A+, on some of these matters. He says, the bantamweight NPP parliamentarians must focus on how to amend the Constitution to limit the powers of a president to pack the Supreme Court with more judges than embarking on a mass street protest. The mighty USA has 9 Supreme Court judges. Little Ghana has 16, and adding 7 more to make it 23. But the question we should be asking, now who caused them? If we are going to play politics with it, it will go to even 50, and we will get there.
Okay, let me put my thoughts on that. As I said, our Constitution is actually very flawed, and we need to, as a matter of urgency, to amend the Constitution. Because the Constitution puts no upper limit. And there's also a problem with our judicial system. We don't have a filtering mechanism. Almost every case, you have the right to get to the Supreme Court. In the UK, for example, where I also practice, in the UK, you don't have automatic right to appeal to the Supreme Court. The case that you'll be bringing to the Supreme Court has to raise a very interesting legal point, of which 2 judges would have to look at it to see whether there is a need for this case to get to the Supreme Court. So our filtering system is a problem. It was for this reason that last year, when the proposal was made to appoint additional judges, I was supporting it because of the workload over there. So I don't have a problem with it. And you also make a point about Sir Dennis and other people. I agree with you. For me, when it comes to Sir Dennis, I'm a bit biased because he was my lecturer. He taught me interpretation law. I've had the opportunity. I mean,
let's even put all of those aside. The caliber of people we need in the judiciary.
Yes.
And how we jumped these people, it is unconscionable.
Yes. I think he has been in the Court of Appeal.
It is unconscionable. Some of the people who have been skipped for others to get to certain levels. If you look at pedigree, years of practice, pedigree, decisions, what they have done, their contributions, and the caliber of people who have jumped them, trust me, there's no explanation.
Benjamin, is that the focus of even our discussions on even? I can understand where you're coming from.
No, so there are 2 things we are discussing. The CJ is on one end.
And then the other one.
And then this one has to do with the recent nominations. We've lumped both of them together.
Okay. For matters of law, I don't have so much. But what I'm trying to say is that for this particular, let's look at the CJ, which I think over the months or weeks now, it's traveled for more than, I don't know how many weeks now. It will still be until we have the finality to the issue. Whenever you are taking a decision, sometimes you need to look at the backlash, the feedback you get. There are certain things that you have to be careful when you want to do. I don't have a problem if you want to remove it. Once you follow the due processes, you want to remove the person. That's okay. But the point is that one common action, look at reactions from a lot of organizations. Today, Organized Labour...
But when you speak of organizations, that's where... But you finish.
I'll let you come in. Organized Labour cautions Mahama over CJA removal.
Yes.
We've had the Sophia Kufu as well. Current processes for removing CJA unfair.
Yep.
I don't go to courtroom often. It's when I have a...
But the processes are what they are currently.
Yeah.
That's as the Constitution spells them out. The same processes that's under which petitions came for Georgina Wood, Georgina Theodora Wood, Sophia Kufu, Enin Yabua, Gertrude Tokonu in the past, under Kufu-Addo, Professor Kweku Azar, and currently as well, with the 5.
You're the one who is speaking here. Sophia Kufu, you know here.
Yes.
This is unfair.
Yep.
What can I say?
And aside the way the law is implemented, there's a problem.
No, the point I'm making is not about... I'm merely saying that the law is what it has been.
Yes.
As it is being triggered now. The only difference is that we've got to a certain stage where certain strings have been pulled that we've never seen pulled in the past.
See, when the champion of justice falls silent, I said it somewhere. Who will speak for those who once spoke for us?
Anyway.
That's all.
On this matter, I think is there something else you want to add on?
Well, I mean,
because you've spoken about the CJs already.
Yes.
For me, I think the law should follow its course. The problem is with the bit about discretion.
Okay.
Though I think technically it's not that much of a problem. Those trying to read between
146
with all its articles.
296.
No, relax.
Okay.
146, 6, 10, and others jointly with 296. And in fact, when I read 296, what does it really say about... It's still nebulous for me.
No, it's not.
When we talk about discretion, when we talk about bias, what's the standard? Does anywhere in 146 or 296 stipulate the benchmark when it comes to discretion? Does it?
You see, I think if you look at...
Straightforward question. Does it?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes, I think it does. You see, when you look at 296, 296 is founded on judicial reviews as part of the common law. It is just a common law which has been summarized to 296. So 146 says that if the speaker, if the president, together with the Council of State, found that there is a prima facie case, the president may. So that aspect of may means that he's called to use his discretion. And 296 then tell us as to how you can use your discretion. So your discretion cannot be unfettered. You should not use irrational grounds as part of the process of making.
Is the president's exercise of discretion unfettered?
I think in this
do you feel he has been biased?
Yes, so far what has been leaked tell me that this decision that there was a prima facie case is even irrational. Is it
the president who determined the prima facie case?
Well, they said together with the Council of State. And we can see the legal brain.
Ishak,
yes.
But the protocols we know.
Yes.
The president gets it. It's like a fan belt. He forwards it to the Council of State. They make a decision. If they say there's a prima facie case, then if he decides that a suspension is in order, and this administration, I think Felix has spoken about giving her time to respond, to prepare adequately, to do the right things, among other matters. So one, step aside so you can prepare yourself adequately to respond. And two, the fact that with such a level of accusations against you where a prima facie case has been established, technically, you shouldn't still be at post. Reflecting on how sometimes when there have been cases against some people, and we have said why is the person, maybe the president should let the person step aside. It's not saying we have determined your case, but step aside. Let's investigate. And if investigations, when they are done, if you are deemed not to have done anything, you resume your role. But if you are deemed to have done something, you step aside. Is there any wrong in that?
I think there is something wrong with that. I've already told you, so far, even though the Constitution insists they must be in camera, so far we have seen some leakages. And those leakages tell
an interesting point you make. Where do you think the leakages have come from? And to whom?
I think the
and
president.
to whom would the leakages benefit?
I think it's the president.
You think it's the president?
The leakages are coming from the president. We have seen...
You're saying that for a fact, or it's a hunch?
Well, the probability that is coming from the president is much higher because we have seen some of their foot soldiers or attack dogs gone on TV. I've seen, what is his name? Sami Gemfi try to say there was an expenditure issue and that it formed one of the bases for suspension of the Chief Justice and possible to the remover.
You know that was actually on the back of some claims that had been made. And again, I don't want to mention that show, but where some other people had come with some information that nobody should have had.
Okay.
And made some analysis of it, which was why, and I know the particular show you are referring to, which was why then Sami Gemfi also came and said that, but I'm also responding to these issues now because it appears some people have details that are not supposed to be in public, and they are putting certain things out to favor someone. So we should also talk about it. In any case, they are not justices of the court, and they will not play any part in...
No, they are not, but we know where they are likely to get information from. Obviously, the Sami Gemfi will not be interacting with the CJ, because we know that is the director of communication for the NDC. Aside him, we have heard the director of operations from the presidency, Mustafa Gbandi, who made it very clear that regardless of what, the CJ will be removed, and that the EC is next. So without those background information, Article 296 is even much more engaged, because we now know that the decision is guided by what? Irrelevant matters. Not necessarily the kind of matters Article 296 wanted somebody to use their discretion to make decision. Because if somebody is already having a predetermined mind, then the person will not even be fair. So I believe as far as the president is concerned, the Chief Justice will never get a fair treatment.
Okay.
Yes, because their mind is made up. They want to remove
Before we look at, just very quickly, whether you think those clauses ought to be changed, right?
Yes.
For the future, because these discussions we are having are not being had in a vacuum. We are looking at the future.
Yes.
We've seen the Salah case, which shaped, decisions moving on. So we have to look at all of them. Let me just read 296, and then you can make of it what you will.
Okay.
Where in this Constitution or in any other law discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, A, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. What is the benchmark for fairness and candidness? B, the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, whether by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law. Who determines the level of resentment? Who enters your mind and determines the prejudice or personal dislike? And C, where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. This is why I was telling you that these clauses practically, I'm sorry to say this, mean nothing.
They mean a lot.
They mean a lot.
Yeah, I can see.
Unless you put proper regulations underneath them to list a certain
the common law,
things, you will not arrive at what the nature of our politics. You will not get that.
The common law judicial review, as we inherited from the United Kingdom, have had cases on that we can refer to the common law to talk about somebody who engaged in irrelevant material in an attempt to make a decision. Bias, we can understand what bias means. I have just told you that one of the directors of operations at the presidency have made it clear that we are going to remove her, regardless of what. It tells me there's bias. And Benjamin, even a dog knows the difference between being kicked and being tripped upon.
Do you think, let me ask you a simple question before we move on. Do you think when the Cecilia Dapa matter came up and the president in his letter said that he was very sure that her integrity will be proven in the end, do you think that...
I think the president was wrong. Even then, I told people that. You see, in some countries, presidents should not be commenting on live cases.
Right.
You see that in the United...
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
When I have my colleague lawyers talking, I don't need to.
I'm not a lawyer. He is a lawyer. I'm only a student of
I have to pour water small.
Okay, yeah. I mean...
You know, my good friend,
yes.
from the beginning, look at the posture of this administration before elections. Comment and utterances.
If you asked me about that, those public sentiments, including, and I've sat here and criticized those. In fact, you've not mentioned some of them. Johnson Esiedun Ketia.
Yes.
Chairman of the party.
Exactly.
Mustafa Gbande.
Even John Mahama himself.
The problem is that, and of course, it's not good for the optics.
Yes.
It is terrible, that line of thinking, and even espousing it, saying it ferociously.
Yes.
However, in a court of law, the same way emotions don't matter. Those people do not matter when it comes to the final process of determining whether or not there's a prima facie case, unless you are suggesting influence from those quarters. Those people are not involved in the process in any way. Please go ahead.
Ben, these are the reason why we are talking about some of these things today. If I'm not being some of the postures, some of the utterances of this administration before assuming office, they've talked about removing of the police, the IGP. It's been done successfully. Now it's CJ.
Yes.
The CJ is going to be done.
Yes.
The next bus will stop maybe as EC, Electoral Commission office.
There is one of their communications.
That's the next bus stop, eh?
That's what
yes. One of their communications, Hamda Sudin, he's the guy who always go to a metro.
Maybe
He said the CJ is done. Electoral Commission next.
Oh, I see.
Maybe the next bus will be my office.
but let me ask you, though, there was something that just came to mind. Yes. Are you done on that point? Because there's also the bit about a third term.
Yes, yesterday, the minority.
We can
really
so you make that point. I don't want to forget. So
you can write it somewhere for me.
Yeah.
But you see, that's why we are having this conversation. If all these utterances have not been made today, we'll not be talking about this. You have right, President, if you want to do anything, you can do. In fact, this man or next man, check the ranking of rule of law. The rankings will come. And some of these utterances and things that we have said in the processes, they're going to have, I don't know whether we'll go up or not. We'll check the rankings. And if you are to review the processes, we have to do that. And here, in fact, I'm only going to focus on what Sophia Akufu, former Chief Justice, said, that current processes for removing CJ unfair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to bring in those two issues. Let's be very brief on these ones. Yeah. So a likely third term. You know what's interesting? Because even under Akufo-Addo, there were moves that, some of the packing of the court, I heard saying that he wants to break there and go for a third term. That did not happen. Now these claims have come again. How much truth, how much credence can you give such a claim? And then we can also add the GBA's resolution with 47 people out of...
you see, if it was a country where institutions are very strong, I will not lose sleep over this. But we are talking of a country, our institutions are still very weak. We are talking about a country where the president can remove the CJ. If you think about UK and America,
where the president can remove the CJ.
I mean, the Chief Justice. I mean, the Constitution, more or less. I mean, if you look at the
president can suspend the CJ.
No, the removal.
No.
The president.
You're a lawyer. Your language must be.
So let me. The president. Yes, the president can suspend, as well as the president being active part of removing the CJ. Wow. Because together with the what they call it, the Council of State, with the recommendation from a committee.
Right.
And we see that most developing country, the president is usually a very strong president. So if you look at it, and also look at what is happening around our neighboring countries, Ivory Coast is a very good example. Look at Alassane Ouattara managing to amend it. One of the reasons why these Sahelian countries are leaving is because of what is happening in our sub-region. These presidents through the ECOWAS, they don't often talk truth to each other. They rumble up each other's...
And I agree with Alassane Ouattara. And again, we have presidents that are too powerful.
Yes.
we have to.
And aside that, look at the utterances of what they call it, the NDCs when they won power. They call him our dear leader. I think we are in North Korea, and they say the supreme leader. All these things come embolden him, and now he's having 2/3 majority in Parliament that they can actually do constitutional amendments. But here, with constitutional amendment, Ghanaians were capable of blocking anything. But here, the suspicion is that they are going for reinterpretation.
Okay, so for the sake of time, I want us to make the most of the time.
So the reinterpretation...
I asked you a pointed question.
Okay.
Do you think there is any credibility, any credence?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
Prof, do you think so as well?
Well, I don't have any evidence to support that they want to amend the Constitution.
No, not amending. They said they are going for reinterpretation. I think that's what the minority...
No, he's saying that...
Well, I have...
So any amendment that would allow a president to go for it.
No, but the minority was saying they are not going for amendment.
But
they are going for interpretation in the Supreme Court.
Whatever it may be.
That's
knowing this president, right. I don't think he will want to do that.
He wants it. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So point made on that. On the 47, the resolution of 47 members, so over 5,000 lawyers, thereabouts. Of course, at the conference, you will not expect everybody. I hear those who registered were about 200. Okay. At the time of the vote, there were about 100 people. Many abstained, so 47 voted, out of which, is it 47 that voted, or is it less? But 5 abstained. Five voted no, and there was the vote from the other end. I'll check the details. But what do you, I don't know whether you were there. Were you at the...
No, I wasn't there. I was very, very busy.
What do you make of this resolution of this number of people?
I think the resolution supports...
Because it's being said, the GBA says.
Well, it is a resolution. I mean, once quorum is formed, if you have the opportunity...
Exactly my point.
If you have opportunity to be there and you didn't go, or you went there and left early, I think, I'm not comparing to Parliament, but I think Abdullah have already clarified that side. So if, assuming a quorum is formed, and whatever statement they take...
Does that form a quorum in any case?
I don't know about it. I mean, when I read the story, I didn't see the details that you are mentioning about how the voting was made up. I just
Xavier Kuja, the PR,
I just knew
spoke to some of the issues.
I just knew they issue a statement. And I think with their statement back in the Organised Labour, which is usually conscious of reason, we ought to listen. And as you said, I think the first group was the executives, isn't it? People are saying they change their mind quickly. But we need to clarify that side. They didn't change their mind. The executive opinion is different from the general body. So I think we need to take it seriously.
Are you done with your papers?
Okay, I think this paper is more or less...
so basically the same thing.
The same story. Workers' Day raw at May Day about cost of living. I think perhaps we can talk about Galamsey. Cost of living is over there. Yes. So
today is one of the areas I'll definitely be looking at, because there's a report by Child Rights International, which I've been able to source. And it makes for interesting reading in respect of mining areas and the impact on children, even when it comes to educational outcomes. And how many of them want to go to school. I think, I don't know whether it was Mohammed Nuruddin who was also interacting. We had a story, I think, yesterday in respect of some of them who have now gone to the tertiary level and regret. I think it's called the Galamsey.
I think I've attended one of their forums around the airport residential, I think last year. But I think child rights, we're not actually taking it seriously, are we? I mean, look at, you, for a good example, look at our junction. The UPSA junction. You see police are much more interested in stopping motor vehicles other than the children who are in the middle of traffic begging. And I have had the opportunity of taking a bus from northern region coming to Accra. If you see in the night, the number of children being moved from the Sahelian side to Ghana. I think child rights is not really taken very seriously here. And I remember somebody who was in the mining side. I think the Child Rights International people managed to rescue such a child. And he was telling us about the horrific stories around that area. I think as a country, I know we are economically, we are struggling. But child rights ought to be taken seriously, because we have signed the International Covenant on Child Rights, as well as there's also a specific African covenant. But are we really taking it seriously?
Okay. As we cap off the conversation, I'll talk about TD Jakes shortly. sometimes I also like, are you Muslim or Christian?
I am a Muslim.
You are Christian, right? Okay, so let's lampoon ourselves, right?
Okay.
In here. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't. I just wanted to get a certain, so you can speak from, a detached position.
I'm partially a Christian. My wife is a Catholic.
Great. So the Ghanaian Times, and we are not practicing any sort of, I just wanted to know so that I also get his take on the matter from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Will restore hope in workers. President pledges Boku mediation put on hold. 500,000 youth apprenticeship program takes off. GJ honors former Ghanaian Times editor, 23 others for contribution to media freedom. And then Kokoba to resume rehabilitation of affected farms. And finally, integration of evidence-based research findings key to resilient, equitable healthcare system. Professor Akwaria says so. You can grab details in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let me just end with this. Bishop T.D. Jakes, we're being told, the recent incidents that have happened, and he is taking a step back from leadership as senior pastor of Potter's House, and he is handing over the role to his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband. Of course, it's his, so to speak, his church. But I just read the comments, and it struck me, it's something I've always thought, but I think we should have a discussion. Someone even is talking about family business, the dynasty continues. I have nothing against T.D. Jakes.
Yeah.
Is it the spirit leading, or is it the family? Because I see same in Ghana.
Yes.
I bring it to the fore, and I don't, I'm very careful about these things. But if you pass by certain places, you will see people's children now, and they have a lot of pastors. Are we saying that it is only their children who can take over? In other words, are these money-spinning ventures? Are these churches that have become, yes, it's a church, it's for God, it's supposed to serve us all, but it's also in the family, and it remains in the family. Do you get it?
Yeah.
For me, a Catholic, staunch one,
yeah.
The Holy Father has passed, the cardinals will go into a conclave, and no specific person. I mean, some people didn't expect an Argentinian to become a pope.
Yep.
He did.
He did.
Do you get it?
Hopefully a Ghanaian will become.
It's not, well, that is, let the spirit move. We don't determine. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you find it troubling as well that we are here?
Well,
just briefly on this, and then we're going, Prof.
I don't know whether I should go into spiritual matters and find out whether it's...
Touch not my anointed. You like using that?
You don't see this or experience this with the Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian.
The Orthodox
you don't
churches.
Experience this. That's one thing we should not forget.
Right.
But they are called one-man churches. So what do you expect? It's a one-man business. I mean, the business we have is established by a family. Obviously, when a person dies or leaves the scene, another person from the family must inherit. That's what happens. We don't expect to see this in churches because we believe purely by God, an ordained institution.
Yeah.
But you realize that these churches it's not only the leader who builds a church. These churches are built by people, the money that we give to support the church, the growth.
Right.
That's all we do. I don't have a problem with this. I'm very careful making a comment here. If anybody is qualified to a position and the person from all angles qualifies, whether it's a father or a mother of the organization, the person must be there. If the person is not qualified, it's not qualified, it must not be.
Okay.
But then we should not leave room for some of us to speculate and talk about it.
Yes. As you said, this is a very sensitive topic. But somebody like me, my father is an imam in the north. So I don't see myself becoming an imam. So even if it is my father's wish, perhaps it will not happen. But I have other brothers who have taken it. Not that I have not taken it seriously. Trust me, I've read the Quran and then I've studied part of Islam. But I don't see myself that way. But I've got other brothers who are much more interested in that area, to the extent that they've gone to Saudi to study it more. So as I say, but it is not something to be passed on from father to son.
Okay.
Let the best spiritual person who can give the best spiritual guidance lead. And if I'm going to pray with somebody, I want to see that the person's emphasis is on the spiritual aspect, not money aspect. Unfortunately, there are some churches. I'm not seeing that much of Islam where emphasis is made on the contribution. So perhaps the contribution aspect is what makes it look like a business.
Okay.
And I think it tends to be maybe Catholicism is not so much affected, even though the Catholic Church is very, very rich. Even though I don't see them emphasizing that aspect. Maybe they have legacy wealth.
All right.
So that aspect we need to remove.
This is where we're going to have to cap off the conversation. Reverend Latte comes back to say, let's be clear that Sophia Kufu's observation is targeted at an unfair process. The mischief of unfairness can be cured by amending the Constitution. The former CJ was not criticizing the president.
Okay.
And that's what he says.
Wait,
is she not a member of the Council of
State?
She is. She's a member of the Council of State, right? Okay.
So we have a program coming up next week.
I think he wants to say something about a program.
A program coming up next week.
Okay, so very briefly, we have to go.
We have a 120-day assessment of this administration. That will be conducted by Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy on Wednesday. So we want to invite people.
At where?
I think the Press Center.
Press Center?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. A very happy birthday to Edwin Ni Odate Nate. You remind me of Odate Lamte. Edwin Ni Odate Nate. My brother, my in-law, my tall guy, and we fool in the corner. It's really good knowing you. Happy birthday to you. Congratulations to you on this milestone. And keep doing the wonderful things. Nana told me of some of the wonderful things you've done in recent times. We salute you. Keep rising, yeah? God bless and keep you. And that's how we are wrapping the news review this morning. Those who joined us, Professor Isaac Wedi, he is Dean, UPSA Faculty of Accounting and Finance. Ishaq Ibrahim is a senior lecturer at the Law School of the UPSA. Don't you forget, this show is proudly sponsored by Whaley Properties. They provide you with quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. When we return on the show, we get straight into our big stories. And later, much later, I'll be sharing with you my blunt thoughts. Let me just let you know what I've titled it. Galamsey going gaga, Ghana's educational cha-cha, like gambling. A military banger. And our assets declaration saga, a critical breakdown. You don't want to miss it. Today, this house will be on fire. Anyway, stay. We'll be right back.